All right, what's up, guys? I'm Craig, and today I'm going to show you how to build your very own email autoresponder using AI in N8N. If you've been into N8N and seen some of the templates, this is based on one of their templates, but we're going to walk through it and build it step by step so we understand it, and then we can make changes to it and have it do exactly what we want. So just to give you an overview of what this automation does, it's going to watch for new emails that come into our Gmail inbox and then use AI to determine if we need to respond to those. Obviously, a lot of emails we get, you don't need to respond to, whether it's a marketing email or some type of automated email. And then if the email requires a response, we'll use AI to draft a response and save that in our Gmail drafts so we can go review it and personally, make sure we're happy with it before we hit send. If the email doesn't require a response, it does nothing. So this is the basic structure here. And then I've made some updates to the prompt in here that I'll go over in a minute, where we could start to enhance kind of the usefulness of this automation. So why don't we just go build it from scratch? Okay, so if you've been into N8N, we're going to create a workflow. And so if we just start with a blank canvas, we first off need a trigger to start that workflow. So in this case, we're going to use the Gmail trigger, and there's really only one: on message received. So when you click this, we have, you'll first need to connect your Gmail account. So I've already connected mine, but if you hadn't, you would go in here and connect that using one of these methods. And then we can basically tell it to check. The default is to check for a new email every minute. The event is message received. And then we're going to turn off this simplify because we want all the data that comes in. Filters, we could set filters. We could filter out certain emails, but I'm going to leave those as is because essentially I'm going to be filtering using AI. Let's see, options, download attachments. We don't need to do anything there. So here's where you can get a test event. So this will grab like the top email in your box. And then what we want to do is pin that data so we don't have to keep running this every time. It'll use that, and we'll kind of propagate that data through our automation. So that is the start. All right, so we've got our trigger. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is run this through AI. We're going to use what's called a basic LLM chain. There's a few different AI nodes that you can use, but this is like the basic one that will work for us. I'm going to move over there. Okay, so now we are looking at this basic LLM chain. In a second, we're going to connect the actual AI model that we want to use, but for now, we're essentially setting up the prompt. So the default here is not what we want. We don't have a chat input. So we are going to define our prompt below. So this is what's called the user message. So here I just want to put the subject and the message that I received. And then I'm going to add a prompt that will be a system prompt. Okay, so I've given it a system message, and I'll show you can expand this, see what it is. So I said, you are an intelligent email assistant. Your task is to assess if the message requires a response. We're going to return the format in JSON. We're going to use JSON format in the response. True if it does, false otherwise. And then we give it a little bit of help here. We say marketing emails don't require a response. automated emails don't require response. Only emails from other individuals require response. Obviously, that's quick. You could certainly expand that. That's our system prompt. And then for the user prompt, I want to give it the subject of the email. And this is where, so you can do this a couple ways. So we want to flip over to expression, and N8N uses this JSON formatting all over the place. So you can see it here. We can see the data that we brought in from that email. So you can either go find and grab the schema that you want to bring over, or you can actually just type the JSON. And once you kind of understand how that's structured, it's almost easier just to use the JSON. But let's see, subject. So what I could do here is the subject. So I can drag that right there, and then you see the formatting there, the JSON. So that's my subject. So I could actually do the same thing just by typing that. And actually, I don't want that subject. So I could go curly bracket. And then you can see it's suggesting JSON dot. And actually, I don't want the subject from the headers because it ends up having subject : and then the subject, which I'm going to be using that later. So I'm going to grab that subject right there. Okay, so that's my subject. So I could have got that just by grabbing it right there. So you can see this was the subject I initially grabbed. Under header, it says subject and then the subject versus that's, anyways, kind of a detail, but later when we create the draft response, this one's better. Okay, so then I'm going to return and I'm going to say message. And then I can either go grab the message down here, or I can, let's see, it's down here, or I can just type this. So I'll suggesting JSON.message text as HTML is what I'm going to grab. Okay, so that, we'll just run that. And it's not working because I haven't set up my AI model. So we're going to leave this all here. And I'm going to go back to the canvas. And then this is where we connect the specific AI model that we want to use. So I'm going to use, get that out of there. I'm going to use OpenAI. And I'm going to use GPT-4o. And it's down here. And I'm just going to leave all that for now. Okay, so now if I go back to this, if I look at the output, okay, it came out as text. So the other thing we've got to do right here, so if we want JSON formatting to come out, we've got to flip that switch. And then that is going to say, hey, you need to connect an output parser. So now we can go back here. So you can see this little branch was added when we flip that switch, output parser. And we're just going to use a structured output parser. Now we could put like the full JSON in here, and in the template they do that. I'll show you what that looks like. Oops. So this would be the full JSON that we could use. We actually can just give it an example. It's not quite as robust, but you can see what they have here is just an example. So we could change this to our key is needs response, call it that. And then again, this is just an example. So if we put a Boolean example of true, delete the rest, that will work. Okay, so now if we go back here, instead of getting this text out, we should get just a true out. And there you see it. So needs response is defined as, in this case, true. Okay, so that is the first thing we are having this do. And you may wonder why not just have the AI determine if we need a response and then go ahead and draft the response. You could do that here. The more things you try to have a single AI prompt do, the more potential it has to get confused. So it works a little better to have one node determine if a response is needed and then branch out from there and have, if you need a response, have another one that generates that. It just keeps it a little less potential for error. Okay, so now that we have that, we are going to add, let's see, an if. Yeah, it's an if. Okay, so we're going to add an if, and we're going to grab this guy here. Okay, so here's where we want to see. So you can see that we now have a variable here from that last node that we set up, the LLM chain, and needs responses, that right there. So we can grab that and drag that into there. And we want to grab this pull down and change this to Boolean. And I can just go is true. Okay, so that should give us 2 branches. We can test this here. Okay, so we should have 2 now. Here's what it does if that's true. Here's what it does if that's false. The false one, we're just going to leave blank. It doesn't do anything. Okay, so now if it's true, now we're going to add another basic LLM chain. And this one we are going to set up. So what we want to do is let's define our system message. And this is the prompt that kind of tells us what it's doing. Now I've got one I already made. Actually, let's use the one that they start you with, the default. So if you go in here, okay, this is what they start you out with. Just you're a personal assistant. You draft replies. Don't make stuff up. Leave a blank if you don't know. That kind of thing. Okay, that's good. Let's start with that. Okay, so there is the prompt there. And then the text that I want to give it, I want to give it the subject and the message again. So we can do that the same way. We're going to go flip this over to expression. And we're going to say subject. And let's see if we can just do this off the JSON. Let's grab that. Dot. And this was subject, right? Oh, that doesn't work because, okay, this is one thing. Because we're going back more than one node, we actually have to call out which node we're trying to get to. So we're going to use this Gmail trigger, and then you'll figure this out soon enough, but you want to go dot item dot, and here's where we put the JSON dot, and now we can do subject. Okay. So that just tells it it's going back to this Gmail trigger and grabbing the subject data down here. So if I had not typed all that, it would have given me the same thing. So that's what I want right there. So if I put that there, same thing, Gmail trigger, item, JSON, subject. Now we're going to do the same thing with the message. And we can grab it. It's the text is HTML right there. Boom. Okay, so that's it. Now we can test this. Did that same thing again. All right, let's go back and define our model. Get that crap out of there. Let's go grab OpenAI. Yes, yes, yes. GPT-4. Oh, why not? So just like with the Gmail, I already have connected my OpenAI account. So if you had not done that, you can see here, you would need to create a new credential, and you have to go create an API key in OpenAI and paste it in here. But once that's connected, then you're good to go. I'm not going to mess with any of that. Okay. So we've got a model. We've got a prompt. All right. So let's run it. And if I look at the output, boom. So we did get an output. I think we said in this prompt that we want just plain text. Yeah. So you'll notice we get like this /n for like a new line. So we're going to have to deal with that when we put this in the draft, because the draft email won't work with that if we do HTML. So now we basically have something that checks and sees if we need to respond to an email, and if we do, it drafts a response and leaves some nice, bracketed kind of fill in the blank things for us to put in if it doesn't know. All right, let's zoom this back. Too far. All right, so the last thing we want to do is generate a draft email. So let's go back to Gmail. Hello, we are going to draft actions, create a draft. So I've already got my Gmail account connected. Resource draft, that's good. Operation create, yes. Subject, okay. So here we want to put our E:, and then we're going to do curly bracket. Oh yeah, we got to flip this to expression. Curly bracket. And again, we're going back in time to that first Gmail node. So we're going to grab Gmail trigger dot item dot JSON dot, I know it's subject right there. Okay, so that will be the subject of our email. And if you click in there, you can tell us about that's what that is. Email type. Let's flip this to HTML. Okay, the message. This is where we want to show you how I did this. Let me set this up. So we're going to get the text that came out of our AI model, and we're gonna replace these new line things with line breaks for the HTML. So we're just gonna grab this piece right here. So we'll do a dot replace. So let's go back. Okay, so let's grab this is gonna grab that. We're gonna grab that. Okay, this came out of the last node, so I can just do JSON dot. You can see the only option here is text. Okay, so let's start with that. So that's just the raw output from our AI model. So let's run that and see what it comes up with. Okay, so we ran that and we can see like the message ID. Oh, we forgot some stuff in here. Okay, so let's set the rest of this up. So we do have some options we want to select here. So one is we want to, no, it'll work like this. It'll just be, I'll show you here. It doesn't have a to email, and it's not part of a thread, and it's a big block of text. And that is because we didn't put those line breaks in. So we're going to go back here and fix it. So the first thing we're going to do is to email, and this one we want to grab. Boom, boom, Gmail trigger, dot. I think it is. Okay. Yes, and then we're going to also add thread. So this will connect it to that email thread. It won't just be like free floating. So this one, flip to expression, and we're going to go curly $, and go grab Gmail trigger dot JSON dot. Okay. So now that's really good. Now we said this text is going to come in without those line breaks. So we want to, because HTML doesn't recognize the /n new line thing. So we're going to add a replace at the end of this. So text dot replace with /n/g and then comma space and then this line break stuff. We are calling out the thread ID and we have the correct response email. This was item JSON headers from. So when we test, it works. Okay. So now if we go over here, refresh, get a draft, and it's put in our line breaks the way we wanted. It's given us both options, yes or no, on this particular email. So that is cool, and that worked. Okay, so that's the basic email autoresponder that they've got in the template. Like I didn't invent anything new here, but that's how it works. And now we can kind of expand from here. We could have it do all sorts of things. So if we had particular emails that we received and then we wanted to respond to. So for example, the prompt I set up as I played with this was for like a content creator who would be getting collaboration emails from brands. So if I update this prompt to something that's going to be a little more specific. So I kept a lot of the basic stuff, but I said, hey, I'm a content creator in this space. I chose home renovation and DIY. So if you get invitations to collaborate, if it's a good fit, let's respond in the affirmative. If not, if it's not a good fit, let's politely tell them no. And if they ask for our rates, let's include a Google Doc that has my rates in it. Okay, so now that I've got that, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much we could add to this prompt to kind of build out the capabilities of this assistant. So now if I test it, and we're not going to flip over to the email, right? But in this case, the email that I'm responding to now, it's not a good fit. And so the response is, hey, this really isn't it. I'm going to go send it an email that would be a good fit, and we'll test that one. Okay, so now I just sent it an email and ran the workflow for a collaboration that would be a good fit. So let's go see what it did. Okay, so in this case, we had a fit. We said, yeah, we're interested. We included a link to our rates and asked for more details. So we could really keep refining this prompt and building it out and building in all these different elements that would help this to be a pretty useful and intelligent assistant, which is awesome. You could have this thing send the emails. I like that it's set up right now to just save them as drafts. So as you're kind of testing this, you could go in and check and make sure this is what you're wanting and expecting and refine your prompt if necessary. All right, so that's it. So we now have built a basic workflow that can act as an email assistant, can respond to emails or, draft responses to emails. And we can build more and more of our personal kind of information into that prompt. So it's more and more useful. We can refine the voice. So it's really responding with our voice. We can add, we could actually have documents that the LLM would reference. Like if we wanted to put more of our brand info, if we're a brand or whatever. So we could really kind of amp up the capability of this thing to respond. But that's the basic structure. And that's how so you actually don't have to build this because this is exactly one of the templates with the exception of kind of plugging in your own personal accounts and refining the prompts. But this is one of the templates that you can get straight out of N8N. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll catch you next time. Thanks.